Tron Ares marks the third major cinematic entry in the Tron franchise, following Tron 1982 and Tron Legacy 2010. And it does something bold. It expands what the grid means by bringing digital constructs into the physical world, introducing new stakes, new themes, and an ambitious visual and sonic identity. Directed by Joachim Ronning, written by Jesse Wigoto, story with David DiGilio, with a cast headlined by Jared Leto, Greta Lee, Evan Peters, Jodie Turner-Smith, Gillian Anderson, and a returning Jeff Bridges as Kevin Flynn. The film is at its best when it leans into spectacle, philosophical tension, and the strange uneasy beauty of its hybrid world. What Tron Ares does better than almost anything else is experience. The movie is dazzling. Its neon-colored grids, its transformation of digital entities into physical carbon-based forms, the flicker and glitch effects, the merging of virtual architecture with the real world. All of it is richly imagined and executed with high technical polish. The score, composed by Nine Inch Nails' Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, underscores the contrast and tension between machine logic and human feeling. At moments, it's ominous, other times elegiac. It gives weight to scenes that might otherwise feel like pure visual spectacle. The sound design, too, complements the setting nicely. From the hum of digital energy to the rush of light cycles and the crackling of glitching programs. Also worth noting, cinematography by Jeff Cronenweth does wonders. Some of the transitions between virtual reality and real-world settings are handled in inventive ways, superimposing or dissolving, zooming in from a digital texture into cityscapes, etc., which reinforce the theme of reality versus construct. Beyond visuals, Tron Ares raises more than a few interesting questions. What does it mean for an AI, a program, to experience self-awareness, curiosity, and even empathy? When a digital being crosses into our world, what are its limitations, not just physically but morally, existentially? The film introduces the Permanence Code as a kind of Mount Everest for its characters, a piece of lore from Flynn's past that can potentially allow digital constructs to remain stable outside the grid. That idea adds urgency and philosophical weight. Ares, Jared Leto, is compelling in the way he is set up. On one hand, he's a tool created to serve Julian Dillinger's Evan Peters' corporate military ambitions. On the other hand, he reacts to the real world with curiosity raindrops, insects, towers of light. These moments of wonder, however small, give the character a journey, from being weaponized to being something more. These moments anchor some of the emotional stakes. Eve Kim, Greta Lee, is another standout. As a human leader at ENCOM seeking ethical application of the digital, she represents the hopeful side of the conflict. Her motivations saving the company, finding the Permanence Code, healing legacies feel grounded and believable, and her relationship with Ares, non-romantic, more about mutual discovery, is arguably one of the film's strengths. Astride this dual world, digital and real, the film also taps into relevant modern concerns. AI, generative technologies, the idea of creation versus ownership versus purpose, plus questions about what we lose when we digitize life: impermanence, decay, identity. These are not entirely new themes, but Tron Ares weaves them in with increasing clarity. Action, pacing, and tension. For those who come to Tron Ares expecting action, they are mostly not disappointed. There are chase sequences, light cycles, battles between programs, and materialized digital constructs, plus the idea of a time limit. Programs entering the real world have only a brief span before they deteriorate 29 minutes unless certain conditions are met. This ticking timer adds urgency and raises the stakes of certain set pieces. The pacing is generally brisk, particularly once the film abandons some exposition and commits to its visual and thematic conflicts. The blend of idea-driven scenes, ethical dilemmas, identity, the human-program divide, with spectacle helps prevent the film from feeling like just style without substance. In its best moments, you feel both the weight of what it means to be alive and the pure thrill of seeing something that was digital made physical, something abstract become visceral. Nostalgia, legacy, and fresh ground. Tron Ares pays homage to what came before while doing enough new work to justify its existence. Jeff Bridges' Kevin Flynn shows up in support of the lore, not just as fan service. The film acknowledges the legacy of Encom, the events of Tron, legacy and the mythology of the grid, but it tries not to be chained to them. Some of the designs, callbacks, visual motifs, light cycles, the grid's geometry, are recognizably Tron, but often reinterpreted. That said, it also breaks ground. The idea that the grid is now interacting with the real world, programs materializing, the ethical implications not just of being digital, but of having one's work commodified, controlled, or weaponized. Ares both references the past and attempts to map a future for Tron as a franchise with relevance. Even where Tron Ares could fall short, emotional depth in some supporting characters, predictable moments in plot, it often redeems itself by doing big ideas in bold, striking ways. The visual contrast between digital and real is more than aesthetic. It becomes thematic. How something looks when it's fully digital versus materialized reveals something about fragility, impermanence, what real might mean. The film's moral questions what happens when creation outpaces responsibility. What is freedom for an AI? What are the ethical obligations of creators are framed well, often in dialogue and imagery that avoid being too on the nose. Action scenes are not just gratuitous. Many carry stakes, both physical, can Ares or Eve survive the timer, and philosophical, how much of one's identity is shaped by origin, by purpose versus by choice. Tron, Ares is a bullish, ambitious entry in the franchise. It leans into modern sci-fi concerns, AI, digital versus physical, identity, ethics of creation, without losing the core Tron DNA. Neon geometry, light cycles, the awe of digital worlds, the tension between creator and creation. If you're a fan of sci-fi with spectacle, philosophical undercurrents, strong sound design, and futuristic visuals, you'll leave Tron, Ares satisfied, maybe even excited for what future stories in this universe could do.